this episode, join Andy and John as they discuss WWE's Money in the Bank. Welcome to the road home from wrestling.
Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock all my doors, and it's the only way I live in cars.
All right, well, we're not headed home, but we are hanging out talking about WWE Money in the Bank. My name's Andy, coming to you live to tape from the road home from wrestling world headquarters of the world. And at the satellite world headquarters of the world, it's John. What's up, John?
Money, 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 money.
That's pretty good.
I know, I love that song. I just sing it all the time when it's Money in the Bank season.
Do you like Money in the Bank? What's your history with Money in the Bank, John?
So I've been watching them since they were initially introduced back at WrestleMania 21, thanks to Chris Jericho, the greatest wrestler of all time. His idea was to have this kind of match, and I think it is a good stepping stone to elevate wrestlers who you wouldn't necessarily see as a world champion. It gives them an opportunity to then, become a world champion most likely, and then showcase that, hey, maybe they do have what it takes, even though they don't necessarily look like it. What about you?
Well, the Money in the Bank is a great heel gimmick, first of all, and it's also kind of like a title. It's like a title that, you're number one contender when you have that. So however you won it, however you became number one contender, it doesn't matter. You are a number one contender while you have that briefcase. And so I think it's a cool deal. It's a fun thing to look forward to every year. Now, John, this is a different year, right? Tell me how is tonight's show different than, say, Money in the Bank last year, for example?
So we are still in a pandemic, if anyone's been living under a rock. And so WWE was forced to do the show a little different. And so instead of the traditional doing the ladder matches inside of the ring, inside of the arena, they moved both the men and women's Money in the Bank matches to WWE headquarters so that they could, quote, climb the corporate ladder. And so this year, instead, both matches were supposed to start at the same time, and the superstars are supposed to work their way to the top to a ring where the briefcases are hanging. So it's not even in the same arena where the rest of the show is at.
Yeah, the matches took place in the Performance Center, and, the Money in the Bank match, which we'll get to, took place in the corporate office, which, we'll talk about why, all that in detail here in a second. But John, what are your overall thoughts on the night? And tell me, is there, do you have any overall thoughts?
So the show got over very quickly. It was over by 9:25, which is great because I have to work in the morning at 8. And so I'd like to be in bed before midnight. And so with this show being done early, that means that they didn't necessarily have a ton of filler like traditional WWE pay-per-views can have at times. I was thinking about that before we started recording. I'm like, there wasn't any random matches just added for no reason like WWE likes to do. And so I appreciated that. Well, there sort of was. but not in the sense of oh, here comes Shane Thorne versus Austin Theory. Let's throw them on here because we got nothing else to do and we're running, short on time or long on time.
Well, John, I have to disagree with you, and I will prove it to you. I will prove to you that I am right about this, that there was tons of filler in this show tonight, even though it was only 2.5 hours long. Now, we did get an hour-long pre-show that had one match on it that was 10 minutes long. So that's another 50 minutes of filler if you want to say that it is, So, wrestling wasn't the focus of the show tonight, really. But we got some good stuff. We got some meh stuff, and we got some bad stuff, too, just like every single WWE pay-per-view. I always say this. You get you always get the good stuff. You get a little bit of great, and a little bit of bad in every single one of these shows, and that's what we got tonight. John, there was a catchphrase that they were saying. They said it once or twice tonight. Did you catch this?
Oh crap! I caught it at the beginning, and then they didn't say it as much as I thought they were going to.
Well, they did. Yeah, they did.
Did they? Maybe I just like zoned out.
We'll talk about it at the end. Okay, how about that?
Okay.
All right. Well, John, we had ourselves a pre-show. We had some guy with gray hair whose name I'm supposed to know, and Sweet Peter Rosenberg. We had them talking about stuff and things. And the only notable thing going on in the pre-show is they had a top 10 moments in Money in the Bank. And I don't remember what was number one, but I'm pretty sure CM Punk was not on that list, which is fucked up. So
he was not on that list.
Yeah.
The number one spot belonged to Seth Rollins, cashing in at WrestleMania 31, 2.
Wow.
But did you notice that in the little highlight package, they completely cut out Roman Reigns from that package? They just had him run in, curb stomp Brock Lesnar, and then there was like a mysterious pin, and you didn't see who Seth was pinning, and then he was champion.
Yeah. I've heard there's nothing to that, though. All right, so our pre-show was also our pre-show main event, right, John?
It was, which was to our dismay, because there was technically 2 advertised pre-show matches, but it was only good for one, because everything is it's possible for change.
Hard subject to change.
Yeah, that's the term I was looking for.
So what was the pre-show match, John?
It was the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy taking on the Swiss cyborg Cesaro.
Do you have a Jeff Hardy impersonation?
No, I don't. I mean, hey, what are you guys doing?
No, that wasn't very good. You have to be a little more southern.
Well, I was drunk, and then I crashed my car.
Right. Well, that's doing like an impression of him without talking,
Yeah.
What do you think of Jeff Hardy as a wrestler?
I mean, he's like one of my childhood favorites. I think Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, like the feud that the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys, like I think they are the 3 tag teams that I think of for me personally as like some of the best tag teams ever. Because I think they are what like made me fall in love with tag team wrestling. And Jeff Hardy's just a wild man, so he's always kind of been the 2. He's been the Shawn Michaels of the Hardy Boys, in my opinion.
Okay. As far as like he was the Shawn Michaels, not the Jannetty, right?
Yeah, he was the better of the 2. But Matt has found his way to like redeem himself with the Broken storyline, But Jeff, I've always thought is like the standout. I think it's just because he's a crazy man who will do anything, doesn't care about his body.
Yeah, well, he used to be I think now he's the Jannetty. I think he is nowadays, but we'll see. You never know. This might be the beginning of his push to the top. We'll see. So Cesaro, tremendous wrestler. One of those guys that all the marks always say, I don't know why he hasn't been the champion yet. And it's like, well, because he's a good wrestler, but that's all he is. You know what I mean? Like, I love him. I think he's awesome, but I don't know. He doesn't seem to have the top guy status that would require to become a champion. I don't know. Just my opinion.
I think he's lacking. I think he's an amazing wrestler, and I think he has a great look, but I think he's lacking like charisma and mic skills, because you almost never hear him talk on the mic.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit what holds him back. But like, if you want a great match, throw Cesaro in there, and you're gonna get one.
Well, what about this one? Tell me all about it.
All right, so I'll just kind of go through the rundown. I was excited to take notes because I haven't taken notes in a month on a show, so I'll try and contain myself. So pretty much right out the gate, Hardy tries to splash on Cesaro from the steps, but he gets caught, and Cesaro just throws him belly first into the barricade. And then they get back in the ring, and Cesaro's working him over, choking him on the second rope, and he runs off the ropes and does this like dive through the second and third rope, and the entire way from like feet to the back of his head just drag across Hardy's body, choking him on that middle rope. I thought it was a really nice looking move. And then he gets back in the ring and gets on the second rope again and like kind of like slides out into the middle and then jumps off and does a leg drop from the middle of the middle rope like to the center of the ring. That also looked pretty nice. And then for some reason he puts Hardy into an abdominal stretch and unzips his shirt to start clubbing him. So I guess that's more effective.
That happens a lot in wrestling. It makes more noise when you can hit the skin. It's the exposed skin being, blasted by the fists of Cesaro. That's kind of what they're trying to do there.
Yeah, but it was very weird because he like daintily just unzipped his shirt like halfway. It was only like a quarter zip. It wasn't even like a full zipper. It's like, this isn't working, Cesaro. Just rip the whole thing off if you're going to want to make the sound. But Hardy starts to make his comeback. He does his little like sit down chin breaker. Then he does a diving forearm, his double leg drop to the crotch, which I don't know how that move doesn't get him a disqualification every single time because he's like clearly landing onto the guy's nutsack.
I think the nutsack is a byproduct of the fact that he's leg dropping the person's abdomen, but he also gets a little nutsack.
Yeah, it should be a disqualification in my opinion.
It's fine.
And then he hits a Whisper in the Wind and lands very awkwardly on Cesaro's leg, and so they turn that into the storyline of this match of Cesaro having a bad leg. He hits a Twisted Fate, and then goes up for a Swanton, but Cesaro charges at him with the European uppercut while he's up on the top rope. Action spills to the outside. Eventually, Hardy he like gets on the barricade and runs across a couple barricades and dives onto Cesaro.
This is, I believe, this is when Michael Cole said, "Jeff Hardy can brawl with the best of them. He just doesn't want to." Which made me laugh pretty hard.
Yeah, and Michael Cole also said something like, Hardy will use anything around the ring for his matches. And, okay, Michael, calm down. So he runs off the barricades, hits a clothesline, rolls him back in, and then goes off the top rope for a Swanton and gets the victory. And as Michael Cole said, it is his first win on his road to redemption.
So what's weird about this is that they've clearly been building to a Jeff Hardy Sheamus feud. In fact, the announcers even mentioned, Sheamus, he sure is a thing, a couple times during this match. Where's Sheamus? What happened? Like, Sheamus wasn't there at all tonight, and why was he wrestling Cesaro?
Cesaro. Yeah, that's what my thought process was. I'm like, why is Cesaro randomly fighting Jeff? Because Jeff and Sheamus they had like a little brawl on Friday on SmackDown, and then he's nowhere to be seen tonight. And even, I don't know, maybe they're just keeping Sheamus away from Cesaro because then people will think that they're the Bar again, and they're trying to they have a new international tag team with him and Shinsuke. So that's the only thing I can think of, but it didn't make any sense as to why Sheamus didn't just come out after the match and just beat the crap out of Jeff.
Here's my theory. My theory is this, is that, back in the day, you always hear about the stories about, they taped this match for TV where the tag champions who had just lost the titles on a house show, but they had to still have them for TV, but then we showed the wrong match and everybody knew that they lost them or whatever. You hear about these stories all the time from back in the day when they used to mix live stuff with tape stuff. And this is an example of what happens when you tape a bunch of shit weeks ago and then you just put it all together with, because it seems to me that this stuff that's coming out for Friday was taped after a lot of this stuff. And I believe a lot of this stuff was taped in April. So, this was just a match they had that was probably supposed to be on SmackDown or something. Who knows? I don't know. So,
yeah, that's true.
Well, it did have the Money in the Bank set, so I will take, obviously it wasn't for SmackDown, but you know what I mean. It's like there was probably 3 or 4 other matches that they taped for this show that didn't make it for whatever reason, but here we are. So Jeff Hardy gets the win, and we move on to the main show, and we stay in the same place. However, throughout the night, our announcers change. We have the Michael Cole and Corey Graves, and then we have the other set is Samoa Joe, Tom Phillips, and Byron Saxton. So, throughout the night they kind of switch out depending on the match that we're getting, and I don't know who's on what show, so I don't really care. But
the SmackDown team is Michael Cole and Corey Graves. The Raw team is the other 3 tryhards. Which how mad are you if you're Samoa Joe and you come back from injury? Well, actually, you come back from failing the drug test, and they're like, "Hey, we're not going to put you in matches. We're just going to put you back on commentary like when you were injured."
He's getting punished, I guess. I don't know. Don't you dare take the Adderall, And what is with these wrestlers? Just give it to me. Quit taking all the Adderall. Maybe that's why I can't get any, is because all these wrestlers are just taking it all. What the hell?
And now a lot of them are getting away with it because they're at home. They're not at the show. So they're like, hey, let's take it.
Man, that's fucking bullshit. Anyway, well, our show opens up with our 4-way SmackDown Tag Title Fatal 4-way match. And, just real quick, a Fatal 4-way is where there's 4 teams or 4 people involved in a match, and there's no DQ or no count out. Otherwise, everyone would be DQ'd for being in the ring, so because you can't have more than 2 people in the ring, and as soon as someone else hit the other person, then they would all be DQ'd. So, there's also no count outs and, and all that stuff. So it's interesting because a lot of times in these kinds of matches, they have a semblance of tagging, and I thought a lot of times that just evolves into nothing, and then we don't know who the legal person is, and then someone just gets pinned and the match is over. This was the opposite of that. This is where they use the tagging as a sneaky way to kind of hide who had the ball, kind of, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's good. John, you have any comments on the beginning of this?
No, not really. But I know Michael Cole kept making it very clear that this was a no disqualification match, because the Forgotten Sons had a 3rd member out there at ringside.
Well, yeah, I haven't even said who's in it yet. Jeez.
I'm so sorry.
So the champions defending their titles. It's New Day, and it was Big E and Kofi Kingston, and they were up against Lucha House Party guys versus the Forgotten Sons versus Miz and Morrison. So there's our 4 teams. And during the Forgotten Sons entrance, camera cuts to Big E, who is sitting spread eagle in the corner of the ring, showing off his taint to everybody. Look at that.
That taint was real low. Like, he's super flexible, man.
That was pretty funny. So we had Grand Metalik and Kofi Kingston start, and Corey is a racist because he thinks Grand Metalik is Juventud Guerrero. This is weird. And the wrestlers are talking a lot during the match. The wrestlers that are not in the match, they're talking a lot and yelling and giving each other coaching advice and stuff. And since there's no crowd, that's really smart and it really helps. The Forgotten Sons do a bunch of heel stuff, like blind tags to unwilling opponents. Like, for example, you got Babyface or another wrestler backed into their corner. Well, they'll tap them on the shoulder real quick. And there was a lot of this. And the person who was on offense, backing the person into the corner, the person who is then being blind tagged, didn't see it one time. This whole match, right. They got fooled like 10 times. This is funny. So I really like that. I thought that was cool. Let's see here. So yeah, they're doing their heel shit, Forgotten Sons. Then we Grand Metalik and Morrison do a Spanish fly from the top rope to the floor that looked pretty scary.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite synchronized, Metalik is in the match for a very long time on the face side. So we had like 4 faces, 4 heels, and he represented the faces for quite some time. Morrison oh man, this is the best part of the match. So we got John Morrison's on the outside. He's trying to get a tag. He reaches right through the middle rope and fucking tags somebody, executes a textbook Canadian tag. So that was tremendous.
Those are far and few in between in the world of professional wrestling.
It doesn't happen a lot in WWE, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We see that a lot more in the indies. And, if you guys were wondering, I mean, what constitutes a Canadian tag? Well, that'd be any time that you're tagging through the ropes. I mean, your standard one is just, hand to hand through the ropes. But like an advanced level Canadian tag might be hand to foot through the ropes or, something along those lines. You never know. I mean, the variations go on and on. So,
yeah.
It's amazing though. So finally another face gets tagged in, and it's Big E, and he and Kofi hit some tandem offense. Forgotten Sons hit a finish on Big E, and the Miz blind tags in behind their back, and they don't see it. But he can't steal the win. He tries, but he's not able to. Springboard Frankensteiner for Grand Metalik. Grand Metalik had a great showing in this match. He was in there a lot, as it almost seemed like Lince Dorado was injured or something because he didn't even wrestle,
Yeah, Lince hit like 4 moves, I think, the entire match, whereas Metalik was almost, like you said, he was almost in it the entire time, which is kind of rare because a lot of the 205 guys haven't been getting much of a shine. So it's good to see both him and Metalik getting a chance to like go at it on a pay-per-view.
Dude, Grand Metalik is a tremendous wrestler. It's just he doesn't get to do his shit in WWE, so you got to go back to like AAA or CMLL or whatever it is. But so Lucha guys get a near fall after double teaming Big E. Kofi gets thrown into the ring post on the outside, and then Gunner from TNA gets tossed for interfering. I don't know what his name is in WWE. I don't care because he won't be there that long. But the guy, his name's Gunner from TNA. He was like him and the beer drinking guy were a tag team for a while. But he basically, Big E's backing into the ropes to hit the ropes and go for a dive or something. And he does the low bridge on Big E and gets tossed for it in a no DQ match. And this leads to the match being ruined because the finish is all goofy. Because you got that going on, and then for some reason everyone else is selling on the outside. Like everyone. I don't know why. Big E went over the top rope. He didn't touch anybody that I saw, but everybody's laying on the outside selling all of a sudden, like we're missing part of the match. And then very slowly, Big E gets up and hits the big ending on Grand Metalik for the win, and thank goodness. I saw Grand Metalik take that pin, and I was like, oh, my God, thank God that none of the Forgotten Sons took that pin because we don't want to damage their reputation,
No
weird
way.
finish, pretty good match other than that. What'd you think, John?
I thought it was a fine match. It was a good opener, pretty fast pace, which is what you need a lot of times for an opening match. But I was kind of confused. It just felt like, so just based off like coming from WrestleMania to this show, it's like WWE was just like, oh, let's throw all these random tag teams at each other. Oh, let's make it a title match. Oh, let's bring up the Forgotten Sons because, we've already forgot about them because they're super generic, just like weird white people. And like I don't know their character. Like their character is that they are protesting outside of state, like Capitol buildings because they want to get their hair cut. And
Maybe.
And I'm like, you guys, what are you?
They are okay. So here's what's going on with them. A long time ago, there was this generic tag team called Blake and Murphy, and somehow they got together with Alexa Bliss, and I believe they defeated what was it? Gable. What was Gable's partner?
Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan something.
Kurt Angle's son, him and Gable and Blake and Murphy had this like feud, and it got Blake and Murphy over as hell. And then they were like, oh, well, let's keep doing that. So then they got, the Mechanics is what they were called, but they ended up being the Revival, and those guys got super over. And this is the next group of generic like jobber bad guys that they're trying to throw in, but they've been called up to the main roster now, and why aren't they getting pinned? They should be getting pinned in this match, not Grand Metalik, but just my opinion.
I agree, but they want to protect them for some reason. I guess so they can take the tag belts. I don't like that. They're not entertaining. I'm just gonna say it. Like They weren't good in NXT. I don't remember them having many matches in NXT. And when they did, they weren't great. And so why are we bringing them to the main roster? Like, I don't know. WWE cut a bunch of other people, but we kept around like some guys who I don't think were necessarily worth it. But hey.
Yeah, they suck. So next we had, we're going to get a couple of these, John. The Undertaker is Old as Hell promo package. For some series I'll probably end up watching eventually, but it's on right after Money in the Bank. Right after. We're not telling you what time, but right after. And never turn off the network, John. Have it on all the time. Like, staple your phone to your eyes and just continue to watch the network, okay?
You never know what you're going to see.
Well, no, we do know because they keep telling us over and over again. So, all right. So now keep in mind, these are the things that are going on between matches. So as we go through the night, the amount of things between matches gets progressively more ridiculous. So we're getting like 3 segments before the next match. So next we have a Lacey Evans promo. She says she's going to win. And then Charlie introduced WWE champ Drew McIntyre. He says babyface stuff, and he says that he's going to win. And he's pretty good.
He is.
I like him. I don't know.
I like Drew McIntyre too. I'm excited for him to get a title run.
I'm surprised that he's doing so well as a babyface, but really, he knows what the hell he's doing. He's a tremendous wrestler. So, all right. Well, now, John, we kind of had assigned each other these notes, and somehow it turned out that I had to take like 500 notes all in a row. So you guys are going to get a lot of me here.
Easy. You had 2 matches in a row, and then I have 2 matches in a row.
Okay. Well, next match was R-Truth versus MVP, or was it? Byron and Tom are on the call with Samoa Joe now, and poor R-Truth's entrance is very sad without a crowd, but he does the full song, and he doesn't even seem to notice that there isn't a crowd.
I legitimately laughed out loud during his entrance. It's like he gets in the ring, he does his little song and dance, and then he looks at the crowd and he's like, "What's up?" And then he holds the mic up. And he's like, "I can't hear you. What's up?" And that's like,
funny.
why weren't the commentary guys being like, "Hey, what's up?" Because usually Byron Saxton is all into just like being super involved, and I guess he was told not to.
Well, MVP comes out in his Black Panther gear, and I mean, what do you think about MVP? I've mostly, believe it or not, I've mostly seen his TNA stuff, and I've seen his New Japan stuff. He was the first New Japan Pro Wrestling or IWGP Intercontinental Champion, actually. So he's been around a long time. And what do you think of MVP? Are you a fan?
So I remember MVP during his original WWE run, and I enjoyed him then because he was like so over the top cocky. But he also had this really sweet entrance where he had an inflatable like tunnel that they blew up, and he like would come through that, and like when it's like TikTok got to the end, he would like bust out, and like it was a great entrance. He's not a great, like, I don't remember him being like a super wrestler, but I remember being entertained by him. And so when then they brought him back, and now he's like having another WWE run 10 years later, I'm just lost.
It's he's supposed to be a manager. So and this is what's a dumb swerve that they throw in here, is that, like, I mean, if you're expecting something and then they try to subvert your expectations, then they end up giving you what you thought you were going to get anyway. It's like, well, why are you doing that? It doesn't make any sense. And here's what I mean, is that MVP comes out, and him and R-Truth kind of argue a little bit. They discuss who is a better baller, and R-Truth has his version of balling isn't the same as what MVP's is, and it's supposed to be funny. It's not. And they're interrupted by Bobby Lashley. And somehow this situation gets worse because Bobby Lashley shows up. And then Lashley's like, "I'm taking MVP's place." So it turns out, originally we thought, well, MVP isn't wrestling anymore. Then we thought, oh, no, he's got a match. And then we thought, oh, wait, no, originally that's what we thought. He isn't going to wrestle anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't.
And it's confusing because, like you said, MVP is now supposed to be a manager, and so he's managing NXT call-ups Shane Thorne and other Australian guy. And I'm like, why didn't those two guys come out with him? Why didn't they like say, hey boss, we'll take the spot tonight. We'll fight R-Truth. And that would have been a good way for them to have, upcoming talent on a pay-per-view where they can go against a veteran who can teach them the ropes. But
I don't know, John.
I don't have the book, so.
Bobby Lashley versus R-Truth. Bobby Lashley wins with a spear. What'd you think of that match?
I honestly don't remember the match. I remember the shenanigans before. I remember Bobby Lashley coming out with steam coming out of his nose and then R-Truth on his back.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that happened. I mean, there was a couple moves, but who cares? So,
Where's Lana?
Who cares?
Him and Lana are supposed to be on good terms again, and now she's nowhere to be seen.
It'll never end, John. It's just that storyline has been going on for over a year now, and it will not go away. Stop.
It's the lamb chops play along of the WWE. It is the song that will never. It's a storyline that will never end. And we'll go on and on, my friend.
Well, so after that, now, again, start paying attention to how much shit we get in between these matches. So now we have the We Are Such Good People promo video with jerseys, but the name on the jersey is changed to Doctor. And Tom says the words COVID-19, which is surprising.
He is not going to have a job tomorrow night.
They said it on the pre-show, too, and I was like, oh, my God.
What is happening? WWE is just being super lenient now. WrestleMania, no mention of this word. Now we got it twice on one show.
It is also, kind of easy to low-hanging fruit to point out that, that whatever probably cost $250,000 to put that little video package together, and maybe you could have just donated that money instead of saying that you're donating the money and paying people to tell people that you are, but whatever.
It's like all the companies right now that are boasting about like, oh, we're so thankful that you are an essential worker working on the front lines at the grocery store. How about you just take that money and like give it to your employees instead of like advertising it on the radio?
John, as you know, the definition of charity is what you do for others while other people are watching. So next we have King Corbin, and he says he's going to win Money in the Bank. Then we have Kayla, who's backstage. She interviews Bayley, and this is fun. I like Bayley a lot, and I like that she's finally sinking her teeth into this character. She's really got her arms around it, and it's going well. And she says, Kayla tries to get a word from Sasha, but Bayley interrupts and was like, no, talk to me, right? So
right.
We're
good. We're best friends. There's no problems in between us. We have each other's back no matter what. I'm on a rap album. We're good to go.
John, did you see the Tamina promo video that they showed that was like,
oh my God.
I really thought I liked it a lot. I thought it was funny. It looked like a YouTube video, but it got real dark at the end. I don't know. I thought it was cool.
I didn't think it was bad. Honestly, I thought it was the most personality we've ever seen out of Tamina. In her 10 years in WWE. But it felt very much like it was kind of like a spoof of like the Firefly Funhouse, where it's like a kid's show. That's what it felt like to me. And I was like, I feel like we're tiptoeing too close to another story we have going. I'm being like super negative on this show so far.
It's okay.
This is very unusual for me.
I mean, I enjoyed the show for a lot of reasons, but most of it wasn't the wrestling. So, they showed that during the pre-show, that video. I thought it was cool, and they are using the same program and computer program they used to edit the Firefly Funhouse, obviously. So, I thought it was kind of cool. So, John, you got the call on this match, right?
I am. Our next match was for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It was Bayley, the current champion, with Sasha Banks going against Tamina. And to start things out, Bayley starts belittling Tamina and asks her if her therapy has been working, which that immediately enrages Tamina, who just dominates the start with clotheslines and other power moves. And as she went to drop Bayley off the top, like she set Bayley up on the top rope, and she went up to like hit a Samoan drop off the top rope, but instead she came back down and said, "Hey Bayley, do you want nice Tamina?" And I'm like, what? Why did you not just continue your offense? Like, why are you like giving her an option of like, do you want to fight good me or bad me? And so obviously Bayley capitalizes off of this, and she starts to do heel tactics and works over Tamina's knee so that she won't be able to hit any more of her big power moves. Tamina tries to super kick Bayley, but Bayley catches her foot and locks her into an ankle lock. Bayley tries to do a Samoan drop, but Tamina weighs too much and she fell down. I'm like, what are we doing, WWE? But so Bayley rolls out of the ring. She tells Sasha, hey girl, I'm parched. And so Sasha grabs Corey Graves' water bottle, and Bayley acts like she's taking these little dainty sips out of the water bottle. And you can clearly see there's no water coming out of the bottle, but she is putting her lips to it. And then she throws the whole bottle of water. Basically, she chucks it at Tamina's face and covers her. And instead of putting out her fire, she just lights it. And Tamina is furious at this point, and she gains some new strength. She throws Bayley into the barricade, chucks her over the announce table, puts her back in the ring, hits her with a super kick, a Samoan drop, goes for the cover, because now all of a sudden her knee doesn't bother her anymore, it seems like. And as she's going for the cover, which should get her the victory, Sasha sneaks in, and there's a cat and mouse chase around the ring, and eventually Tamina chases Sasha out of the ring, and she goes to hit a Samoan drop on Bayley, but Bayley reverses it into a crucifix pin and picks up the victory and continues her reign as SmackDown Women's Champion.
Now, the match was fine. I mean, it was nothing special. I tell you what, if it wasn't for Bayley's just tremendous pro wrestling, that would have been the worst match I've ever seen in my life. But Bayley's really good, and she's doing a great job yelling at Michael Cole. She grabbed at one point she was working over the leg, and she's getting ready to throw the leg into the post or something like that, and she's like 10 years my ass like that. Which is really
yeah, and at one point she gets out of the ring and she's like, hold on, I need a timeout, and Michael Cole from the commentary table is like, maybe you should just get in the ring and finish the match. And she's like, shut up, Michael. I'll do what I want.
Yeah, he kept telling her to get back in the ring. Mind your business, Michael Cole. Quit trying to get your shit in.
Michael Cole. I like that they've now all of a sudden had all the heel wrestlers just keep picking on him. I wonder if it's going to lead to us having another Michael Cole match. I hope not.
God, no
but
way.
If it does lead to Bayley getting to beat the crap out of him, or Sheamus being able to beat the crap out of him, I'm all here for it.
It wasn't that long ago that for no reason Brock Lesnar just ran in and just picked him up and gave him an F5. So, it wasn't that long ago. It was Brock was just running in and destroying everybody there for a while. So, okay. Yeah. Now, after the match, there was some stuff that happened, right?
Yeah, Sasha, for some reason, got in, ran, and kneed Tamina in the face. And then she thought that she had broken her heel. And so, out of anger, she just slaps Tamina across the face. And I'm like, was that real? Was that part of what was supposed to happen? Or is she really mad about her heel breaking? And then Sasha and Bayley just kind of celebrate. And then they go and punk out Michael Cole together, and all is well in Sasha and Bayley's friendship world.
So far, we have a lot of expected results, right? I mean, this is nothing surprising is happening so far. In fact, our big surprise is Bobby Lashley so far. So that's great. Now, take note of all the shit that happens before the next match. All right, our next match is the Universal Championship match, but we can't just have that. We have to have first a WWE shop promo video, a Total Bellas commercial, a Titus O'Neil school lunches are important for the kids and stuff, so give him the money video. Seth Rollins promo says he's gonna win. And then Corey and Cole talk about the Undertaker is Old as Hell show that's coming up after Money in the Bank. Then we get the Universal Championship match promo video with the Firefly Funhouse stuff going over Braun and Bray's history. That is a lot. That was like 20 minutes of shit until the next video or the next match. So
Gosh, that's
this
a
show
lot.
started at 6 for the pre-show. There was one match in that hour, so we weren't going to count that. So the show started at 7 o'clock. It ended at 9:25. All right, and we got 20-minute sections of just bullshit. So, yikes. All right, as I said before, our next match is the Universal Championship match. It's Bray Wyatt, not The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman, the champion. And, John, you sent me a text at the beginning of this. Do you remember what it said?
Yeah, it said immediately Bray Wyatt is going to lose. And then they are going to continue this feud, but mix in The Fiend this time.
Yes, I like this. I feel like that this particular story should have been the lead up to the Fiend debuting, though, as opposed to something that happens on the like later on in his creation. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it would be a good way to like introduce it, especially kind of the story that was playing out in the match, because there's kind of some confusing aspects at times, but they worked. But we'll get to that.
Weird match, and I think every Bray match is gonna be weird to some extent, and that's kind of we'll talk about it here. All right, so Braun Strowman is the Universal Champion, and Bray Wyatt is challenging him, and Bray Wyatt has also said that he wants to bring Braun back into the fold. He's like, I made you, because as we know, the history is that Braun was brought up into the Wyatt family, and then he left eventually, and kind of there was never really a blow off there. So this is kind of the end of that story that started years ago that really didn't go anywhere. I don't know. Okay, so first we get no sign of the Fiend, and I was surprised by that, but then I thought, oh, John's right, It's like Bray Wyatt's going to lose, and we're going to get the Fiend later. Corey, he tries to make an Icarus reference. He's like, and Bray Wyatt's looking at Braun Strowman like Icarus looked at that sun before he flew too close, and I'm going to stop talking now because that doesn't make any sense. So Braun gets some offense in, and Bray laughs it off. He laughs off the attacks. At one point, he says, "You're really strong," which was great. Braun dominates, beating Bray up all over the ring area, and Braun tries the old pounce on the outside, but he gets olayed by Bray and runs into the announcer desk. And Bray was talking throughout the whole match. He's saying things like, you're the black sheep, come back to me. Man, we don't have to do it this way. We can do this a different way, What'd you think of all this, John?
I thought it bodes well for Bray's character because he's so good at being both the Fiend and this Bray Wyatt character who's just over the top friendly, but he's really sadistic and like manipulating. And so him talking throughout the entire match, I thought added an extra layer to this because obviously we couldn't do a straightforward match because of just size difference and the fact that at WrestleMania we had Braun to hit 4 running power slams and that was all the match was. And in the same, situation, Bray or the Fiend lost the title to Goldberg in a decisive fashion, and so they had to find a way to do this match without necessarily like leaning too hard on the past in that sense, like match outcome past, and more of like relied heavily on the storyline past, if that makes sense.
Fair. All right, so when Braun gets dumped over the announcer desk, we get the first appearance of a puppet when Huskus arrives, and he is, kind of coming up from behind the barricade, standing there, and he's got the chocolate all over his face and the workout gear on. It's a funny puppet. And Huskus is cheering, I think, for Braun. I think he's cheering for Braun because if you don't know the like dynamic of the puppets, Huskus is a face and all the other puppets are heels. So, they always talk shit and they want the Fiend to kill everybody, but Huskus is always rooting for the good guy because he's an idiot. So, which is great. Bray hangs upside down. Oh, wait, Bray apologizes for beating up Braun, too. A lot of times he's going, I'm sorry. And, he doesn't want to do it. And he hangs upside down in the corner, calling for the Sister Abigail. Hits a tornado DDT and does get a Sister Abigail, but Braun kicks out, and Wyatt's surprised, and he talks to himself, and you think for a second, maybe the Fiend's going to come out, right, John?
Yeah, and I got my hopes up because I was thinking maybe the Fiend will appear halfway through the match. Like the lights will go out and then they'll come back on and the Fiend's sitting there with his mask on and it's over, but that's not what happens.
The story of this match is great because the way that it ends, this whole time we've always looked at Braun Strowman as a simple character with no depth. I mean, he's a big, strong guy. That's it. There's nothing else to him, right? And, in fact, he's not dumb either. That's the other thing. He's not like a big dumb guy. He's just a big guy. And now we're adding the element of the fact that he can play mind games because he does. He plays some mind games in this. Bray tried another finisher, but Braun reversed that with a choke slam. He gets some hoe trains in. He gets the big pounce on the outside. The barricade doesn't break away. And Braun suddenly has the black sheep mask on. And this is the mind games. Bray's so happy. He can't help it. He's so happy. He's like, oh, you're coming back. Awesome. He doesn't even remember the fact that he just got hoe trained, But so we get the double Jesus Christ pose, both on their knees, and Bray stands. And Braun stays sitting, and it's like they're friends. They hug, and the puppets all appear, and they cheer. And then Braun takes the mask off. He turns his head sideways like he did before, hits the power slam, and gets the win. John, what'd you think?
I thought it was good storytelling. Like I was mentioning earlier, like you couldn't necessarily do a straightforward match with this one, so I thought they did a really good job telling a story and progressing the storyline for the future.
I was pissed at WrestleMania because I didn't get to see Bray wrestle, and everyone loved the Firefly Funhouse match. I didn't like it because I wanted to see Bray Wyatt wrestle. He's great. He's a tremendous wrestler, whether he's in a character or not. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the character of The Fiend, the character of Bray Wyatt, translate into the ring. And that's not what we got at WrestleMania. So, what we got tonight was a much more, conducive way to do this, a way that I would prefer they do it in the future. Just my opinion. What do you think of that?
No, I agree. I wasn't super stoked about the Firefly Funhouse. Like I think I understand what they were going for. It still feels like it was a John Cena retirement match more than like a Bray Wyatt match. But I agree. I think like Bray is good when he's allowed to like be in front of the crowd and even in the backstage promos. But did you catch the little like feed cut before they cut off of Bray Wyatt in the corner?
Did not know what happened.
Well, he was sitting over there in the corner, and then the screen started like doing the static, and the Fiend like face pops up like 2 or 3 times, and then I
didn't catch that.
They cut away from him altogether. So they're showing the inkling of the Fiend making a comeback into the storyline.
Well, maybe the Fiend is the hacker guy, because that's what we get next, John. We got a bunch of bullshit before our next match. We got the hacker guy video, and John, this is pretty neat. I was informed of this recently, and I am now coming to the conclusion this is true. That they are using different people to record these hacker guy promos to confuse us, so that we don't know who it is. So the voice has changed a little bit, and then basically it's like a
Huh.
Mr. Robot thing, and it's like you just see the back of the person, and they're like hacking, and they know all this shit. But every time that person has a promo, it's a different person's voice. It's kind of cool.
Huh. I guess I haven't noticed the different voices. But I've noticed that a lot of the different like storylines that they like are tying themselves to have been different each time. Because like initially it was like outing Sonya Deville to Mandy Rose, like about her, you know, finagling in the Otis Dolph storyline. And then a couple weeks ago they did one about like I guess it's kind of always been friendship, where they like showed a bunch of different like friend groups and saying like the truth is going to come out because like some of these people aren't you know who they say they are. And then I noticed on tonight's promo it was only like the SmackDown roster, which like this hacker hasn't been on Raw as far as I know. I think it's just been strictly like a SmackDown storyline. So I like that they've been like focusing on that. So I'm really curious as to see if it's someone from the SmackDown roster or if it's someone from like NXT or maybe someone who's not even in the company yet.
I love doing stuff like this when it's a debut. That's what I like. If it's a return, I don't know, not necessarily my thing. But if it's a debut, stuff like this works on me. I love this. They do this a lot in New Japan, where they'll have months and months of videos about somebody, and you don't know who the fuck it is, and then they show up, and every time you go, oh my god, the clues are right in the video, and you never would have known. It's pretty cool. Well, so we get that, and then next we get the Take Me Back Tuesday on FS1 video package, where they're going to talk about Hulk Hogan. He did the thing where he lift the guy up, put him down. Believe that?
Yeah, and Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat are going to be there, and they're going to be fighting for the IC title.
Come on. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Next, we get the WWE Championship video package. Got to get so many video packages in. And this is fine, We hear about Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre and how they're both going to win. And, John, we get ourselves a match.
We do, but, Byron Saxton made sure we knew something. And maybe WWE can take a note from this, and maybe we should all talk less and clay more. I don't know what that means at all. But Byron wanted to make sure we knew about it because he said it multiple times.
Oh, he always says what a little kid would say. So.
But yeah, so this was the battle of the most baby-oiled man match. Do you think that they baby oiled each other in the back before they came out, or did they just share a bottle?
I think that they do, like we've seen at other promotions, where they have a little kiddie pool full of baby oil. And sometimes you slip and fall in it on your way to the ring, and sometimes you don't. They both fell in it.
Oh, they fell in it hard, like up to their necks. Like this wasn't even a kiddie pool. This was like a 3-foot pool of baby oil.
They have a really nice one at WWE.
Yeah, that's part of the performance center they didn't show us in that awesome Edge versus Randy Orton match.
You remember those like matches, or every once in a while there'd be like a pool of brown liquidy poop, but they wouldn't call it poop, and like Vicky Guerrero would get thrown in there, like that.
Yeah.
It's that. It's filled with oil.
Poor Vicky. She always was getting tossed into stuff.
Loved her. I think she was awesome, man, and I miss her. Whenever she shows up, I'm like, oh my god, I love her.
But yeah, so this match was for the WWE Championship. It was current champion Drew McIntyre taking on the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, Andy's favorite wrestler.
Ooh.
So Drew dominates for the first 5 minutes with clotheslines, chops, and shoulder blocks. At one point, he chops Rollins so hard that he falls to the mat. And then, Drew shows off his superhuman strength because he then suplexes him from the mat, to a standing position and then back down. And it was quite impressive. But Seth is able to turn the tides. He drop kicks McIntyre in the knee, starts working it over. He puts him in an STF, and then he moves it to a crossface, but Drew is able to grab the bottom rope. The ref starts the count. Rollins makes sure to get the best use out of the 5 count, despite the ref being so mad. You only have till 5. 1, 2, 3. I said you only have till 5. You're going to break that? 4. I said 5. Did you say 5?
I was just watching a match the other day with Jack Evans in it. He's in AEW now, and the ref was telling him that, and he goes, "Really? I only have till 5? What? I didn't know that."
When did that become a rule?
That's funny.
So immediately, Drew kind of rolls to the outside, and Seth starts diving onto him out there. He hits 1 and 2. I think there was an order to this, but he hits a second one, and then he hits a running diving knee from the apron, and then he does 2 more jumping knees from the barricade and then from the table. And then Seth gets greedy and he goes for a third running dive, but Drew catches him and hits a belly-to-belly suplex onto the table. Were you enjoying this match at this point, or were you like, just another Seth Rollins match?
I have 2 things that I love from this match. You haven't gotten to one of them, and I think you've already passed the other one up, and that was when, like in the middle of the match, I think it was Rollins was going up to the top rope, and Tom Phillips says, "He's going up!" Like that, which made me really happy.
Because that's our thing. Like, hey, Tom, you know what you need to do?
Get your own shit.
He's been listening to the podcast, I'm sure. So Drew continues to control for a little bit until Seth hits a modified enziguri, and then he kicks him and then a kick to the head. Oh yeah. He hits enziguri, and then Drew's on his knees and he kicks him in the head.
Kick thing.
Yeah. But it's only good for 1, and they made sure to make it a point that it was only good for 1. Rollins then goes and hits a frog splash off the top, and it's also only good for a 1, and they make sure to let us all know that was a very forcible kick out. Seth is frustrated at this point, and he goes out and he grabs a chair, and the ref is like, "Hey, you don't want to do that, man. You don't want to hit him with a chair. I'm going to have to DQ you. If you bring that chair in and you hit him with it, even touch him with it, I'm going to have to DQ you." And then Seth is like, "All right, I won't do that." And he shoves the chair out of the ring. And then there was some sequence of moves, but Seth eventually gets Drew up to the top rope. He hits a superplex off the top and then immediately a Falcon Arrow, but it is not enough to get the victory. Drew dodges a stomp and hits a future shock DDT. It's only good for 2. They go back to the top. Seth is able to kind of push Drew off and lock his leg that's been getting worked over in the top, under the top turnbuckle, and he starts standing on it. But then Drew is able to catch a surprise German suplex that, Seth, could have killed himself, but he's a pro.
Move of the night. That was unbelievable. He threw him across the ring, and he did a complete flip.
Yeah.
Awesome.
From one turnbuckle almost all the way to the other turnbuckle.
Yes. Awesome.
And it was out of nowhere. So it's not like he was really even had a chance to prepare for it. It just happened. And I'm like, oh, shit. So then Drew gets out of it, and I don't know if this is new. I've never seen him do it. Maybe he's been doing it on Raw. But he counts down to his Claymore kick. 3, 2, 1, go. And we all know that if you announce that your move is coming up, it doesn't work. So, yeah. So Seth dodges that. He reverses into a curb stomp, gets a 2. He goes for a third curb stomp, but Drew hits a Glasgow kiss, which is just a headbutt, and then a Claymore, and he picks up the victory and retains his WWE Championship. And then post-match, Drew's leaving, and he comes back in, and he says, "Hey, let's be friends. Let's show the world that you're a leader and a man, and shake my hand." And so they do. and he was super cute, and Seth was just fuming that he just shook someone's hand. It's like, he shouldn't be doing that if he's a bad guy. So I don't.
Plus COVID-19. Why are we shaking each other's hands?
Listen, at this point, they were rubbing their sweaty, baby-oiled bodies over each other. I think you can shake hands.
What'd you think, John?
I thought it was a good match. It was a lot longer than a lot of the other matches outside of the opening Fatal 4-Way. But I thought it was a good match. I personally really like Seth Rollins, and I think Drew McIntyre is also pretty good. And so I kind of figured that we would get a pretty decent match. I think that both of them could have even gone even further if they were allowed to, which I have a feeling this feud probably is going to continue. But what about you? What do you think?
This was the longest Universal title match since I don't know when. I mean, maybe since Finn Balor had it. I mean, who knows? It's been, I
don't know. We had that. Well, this was the WWE title match. The Universal.
Oh shit! All right.
Was a different one, but the Universal, we had that really long match between Seth and The Fiend at Hell in a Cell.
Okay. What about the WWE title? I mean, it's been a little while since there's been a long match, right?
It's been at least. How long has SmackDown been on Fox? That's like a year, right? In October, because that night Brock beat Kofi for it in under a minute, and
that's when the trend started. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been almost 8-9 months since we've had a long WWE title match.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because I like this match because it was long and because. It was giving the title the respect it deserves, and a guy hit one finish and he won. Huh.
Right.
That's how that works. Usually you got to hit 6 of them, I think, to win a WWE top championship, match. But anyway,
right.
I thought this was good. So, it's good because I'm so glad that Seth didn't win because, good Lord, I just go away. I don't want to see him anymore. So definitely don't want him to have the title. Not that I'm going to watch Raw or SmackDown anyway. Who am I kidding? But
right. You're just a pay-per-view guy. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, after that, we got all kinds of more bullshit before we have our next match. Because guess what, John? Our next match is, in fact, the Money in the Bank ladder matches. But before we get there, we got to do all kinds of stuff. We get a WWE Battlegrounds video game commercial. We get a cricket commercial starring a dildo. We get
and Charlotte.
Yeah. Oh, and Charlotte. I thought you meant, yeah, that's not nice. Yeah, so what is this thing? This thing's a butt plug or a dildo? The cricket mascot?
I don't know. What is the cricket mascot? Just some weird thick, pickle-shaped object.
It's very phallic, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
We get that. All the best foods are shaped like dicks, Andy. That's fine.
Okay, I can think of it.
That's a super bad reference. You've never seen Superbad?
Yeah, that was so funny. I like that movie. So after that, we get a WWE shop commercial because in case you had forgotten from an hour before that, oh yeah, they still have that. Oh, and they were offering tonight only buy one get one free T-shirts, which by the way, that's also tomorrow night and the next night, but it's tonight only.
And if you don't catch it, it will be at the next pay-per-view.
Never pay full price for WWE merch. If you're listening to this, never do it. Because if you just wait long enough, you can get a shirt for free. It'll show up in clearance. I mean, there's a million different ways you can get it. And never, ever pay full price at a fucking live event where the T-shirt that should be $20 is all of a sudden $35.
Yeah, they definitely upped the price because, they had to bring that shirt there. So it's like they're charging you for the shipping, except for they just brought it with them.
But double shipping because they brought it to you.
Yeah.
Which is how shipping works. All right. So then we got that commercial. Then R-Truth is backstage and he's looking at a picture and he's very upset. And Charlie walks up to him and she tries to get him to talk. And he thinks that he beat MVP. but he lost and he didn't wrestle MVP, so that's a problem. And he has a picture of himself holding the 24/7 title, and he says it's time to get his title back from Tom Brady.
So we were talking, during the show, and I said, has R-Truth been around for 82 years? And you said, yes, he has been around for WWE for 82 years. I'm concerned that he might be getting like Alzheimer's or like dementia.
You could be right. He's that old. But
like he's taken too many bumps and he's starting to forget where he's at. Well, he's not starting. He's forgotten where he's at for the last decade.
I think one of my favorite R-Truth kind of runs was when Stardust was around, and I think he was feuding with Stardust, and he's afraid of spiders for some reason, and so there was a King of the Ring tournament, and basically they're interviewing people. What are you gonna do when you become King of the Ring? And R-Truth made his own scepter out of a plunger, and he had this crappy cape that he wore, and he said that he was going to ban spiders. I thought that was really funny.
Listen, I want him to be my king.
Sometimes he's so funny, and sometimes he isn't. Another time, he came out in the middle of the Royal Rumble and pulled a 30-foot ladder out from underneath the ring and tried to climb the ladder. And he wasn't even in the match. That was awesome. So we get that Raw. We get a Raw commercial after that, and then which by the way, Raw, they're gonna have the stuff and the things tomorrow. So there's that.
Becky Lynch is gonna confront the winner of the Women's Money in the Bank winner,
and other wrestlers will be there talking. Another Undertaker is Old as Hell commercial, and then Corey says he wants to watch the Undertaker is Old as Hell thing, and Cole sets up the Money in the Bank matches. So, John, tell us about how the Money in the Bank matches are going to work, and then tell me the women competitors, and then I'll tell you the men competitors.
Okay, so essentially the way it was supposed to work, I was under the impression that both sets of competitors were going to start in the lobby of headquarters, like outside the front doors, and then they go in the front doors, and then, the race to the top of the corporate ladder would be on, but instead just the women showed up in the lobby, and so they had to work the hardest to get to the top of the corporate ladder, but the female competitors were Lacey Evans, Nia Jax, Carmella, Shayna Baszler, Dana Brooke, and Asuka.
Did you have a favorite or a dog in this fight, John?
Not really. I mean, I think Lacey Evans is finally growing on me, and so I was kind of pulling for her because I feel like they keep teasing that she's going to get a title reign, and then they pull back real fast. So I kind of thought that maybe she would get it, and then we would finally have her topple Bayley. But I think they have other plans for Bayley. Yeah.
They never pull a trigger.
Right. And if they do, they take that title back off in 3 weeks.
Well, so for booking purposes, I would have thought that Shayna Baszler would win this. She's a heel. She's a jerky heel. This would give her something to bitch about. And not that long ago, she choked the whole roster out in one match. So, but then she lost to Becky at WrestleMania. So now this is the problem with WWE, is the people that are special. They become this amazing special thing on the indies. They go to NXT, they become this special thing, and then they go to WWE and they get lost in the mix, and they're just another wrestler. And that's what I'm afraid is happening to Shayna. But maybe, this is a special match. The other person I really wanted to win, but I knew she wasn't, was Dana Brooke. I love Dana Brooke.
I don't know why Dana Brooke was in this match.
It's in it because everyone thought she was going to lose the qualifying match. That's why. So they had this weird thing going on where they had her in a qualifying match and in a tag team championship match, booked at the same time. Yeah. So they had to have her win the the match to get into Money in the Bank so she could lose the tag championship match. But anyway, so our competitors in the male men in the Money in the Bank match is Daniel Bryan, my favorite wrestler, versus Aleister Black, Rey Mysterio, Otis, King Corbin, and AJ Styles. Now, John, we're going to start off with you, and basically you were in charge of the women's Money in the Bank match, and I was in charge of the men's. It overlapped a couple times. I don't think that's really going to be a problem with us covering it. But stuff started off with the women, right?
It did, but where were your guys at? Where did they start their match?
They started in a weight room.
Yeah, that's not the lobby.
But it was also on the first floor.
We think. Hopefully. It better have been. So the women, initially, the first 5 girls are in the lobby, and Asuka is announced to be in the match, and they are looking around. They cannot find Asuka to save their life, even though they all just walked into the same room together. And then the bell rings, and they hear Asuka just chirping away, and they look up, and she is hanging off the railing of the second floor, and she immediately dives off onto all of them before dancing her way to an elevator, pushing the button, and riding that thing solo dolo, and all the girls chase after her up the steps.
Also, during this match, there is a score underneath it. So you hear music, and the music changes to match who's, like, getting their shit in. So, which is pretty cool. And if you, like, listen to it, like, it'll get, like, heavy metal when, like, Baron Corbin's fighting, but then it's, like, hip-hop when it's AJ Styles or something, It's kind of neat. So they did that. As you said before, the men started in this weight room, and they immediately pair off and start brawling. When Daniel Bryan showed up, and the entrances were funny, too, because they just, like, walk into a room while their music's playing, and they clearly can't hear it, So they're just like walking in, and when Daniel Bryan walked in, he's like, "Oh, here we go!" He is having a blast, you can tell. Corbin breaks a mirror. He throws a weight at Daniel Bryan and breaks a mirror, and this is our first you kind of metatextual goofy thing where he stares at the mirror, and then there's just a close up of his face, and the music changes to this real sad oh, and he realizes he now has 7 years of bad luck.
I didn't put that together until you started talking about him breaking the mirror. I'm like,
funny.
He's got bad luck now.
Yeah. So Otis puts barbells on top of AJ Styles, pinning him to the floor as the rest run down the hall. And Brother Love is in a bathroom, and Rey Mysterio kind of lags behind as everyone else goes up in an elevator. Yeah, I think this brings it back to you.
Yeah, and then we cut to Shayna, Lacey, and Carmella making their way up some steps. I think Carmella trips Shayna, and then Lacey punches Carmella with the women's right, and then punts Shayna in the head and runs up the rest of the steps. And then they call for the elevator, where the guys spill out of their elevator, and the women are distracted, and Asuka sneaks out of hers and runs off, and then all the women start chasing Asuka, and then it goes back to the men.
While that's going on, Daniel, there's this room that they're in that basically is a three walls, and the walls have like a crowd painted on them, and then there's these fake kind of ring ropes against the wall. And Daniel Bryan gets Baron Corbin tied up in them, and then Otis is standing there cheering him on, and he just kicks the ever-loving shit out of Baron Corbin, and then looks at Otis and just kicks the ever-loving shit out of Otis. And then this is the strangest non sequitur that I didn't get, and I don't understand what this was. A clown, not Doink, a clown just raises up from behind a chair, and we get the circus music, and then he disappears.
I think that they thought it I think it was supposed to be Doink, but it looked more like Frank the Clown, that big super fan, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Well, AJ Styles searches for Rey Mysterio because he wants to get revenge on him for pinning him down to the mat there. Or wait, I don't know why he's mad at Rey.
Because Rey wouldn't help him take the
that's
off.
okay. So, and he sees a picture of the Undertaker and he's terrified. And then he opens a door looking for Ray, and it's this blue room with a casket in it. And Aleister Black like just pushes him in there and like locks the room, and we hear AJ Styles like screaming. And then we see Paul Heyman about to eat some food, and Otis starts a food fight. But this is also the females are involved in this as well. Why don't you pick it up here?
Well, we had another female segment before we got to the food fight. So Shayna and Carmella were running through the hallways of like an office area, and Dana Brooke and Nia meet up with them, and they all kind of like square off. Nia throws Carmella into the office, and she takes out everybody. But then Dana Brooke grabs a chair and whacks Nia Jax with it, climbs onto the table, and sees a Money in the Bank briefcase hanging above the table that's full of money and no contract. And so she grabs it off, and like they act like she just won the match, and then like the music cuts and Stephanie McMahon's at the door, and she's like, "What are you doing? The briefcase is on the roof, you idiot." And she's like, "And you guys are totally destroying this building. I don't know what you're doing, but you're not supposed to be doing that." She's like, "And also clean up Nia Jax's drool, because she's drooling everywhere."
And they do this in the way that I hate more than anything, where Stephanie was not in the room with them. They just filmed her against a white wall saying lines and then just edited them in.
Yeah, there is no interaction between them. So Carmella takes advantage of the distracted Dana Brooke, and she takes a giant photo of her winning the first inaugural women's Money in the Bank match. Well, second women's Money in the Bank match, because James Ellsworth won the first one. She takes the giant photo, hits it over Dana, and traps her inside of the frame. Carmella runs off, runs out of the room. She catches a women's right from Lacey, and then we get to the food fight. Where
also, I want to mention when she catches the women's right, the camera is in Carmella. It's Carmella cam, because we see her point of view, and then the fist just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And you mentioned like how the music like pertained to the scenes, and I'm pretty confident that they use the Fortnite like victory music at that point when Lacey was running off. So the two gangs meet up inside a big like hallway where Paul Heyman is just gorging himself on all the catering. And Otis looks at him, and he starts shaking. He's like having like a mild seizure because he's excited about food. And then he grabs like a plate of rice and like just sticky food and shoves it in Heyman's face, and everyone thinks they're about to get fired. And instead, Otis is like, "Food fight!" And everyone starts tossing food around. And then out of nowhere, Shayna Baszler just has Rey Mysterio in a rear naked choke.
Chokes him out.
We're like, why? And then out of nowhere, again, Otis and Nia Jax on opposite sides run and just squish Rey in between the two of them. And then Nia chucks Carmella, I believe, into a vending. Oh no, she throws Dana Brooke into a vending machine, which would have been great if like a can of pop like fell out of the vending machine when she did that, but that's just minor touch. And then she power bombs Carmella through a table. And then do they continue with the men or the women after this?
I think this is where Otis walks into the cafeteria, which is on the third or fourth floor or wherever they're at now, I guess. And he finds a pie, and he's like, "Oh yeah," he's doing this, "Oh yeah," and then John Laurinaitis just drives up on a little cart and goes, "Hey, people power, remember me?" And Otis hits him in the face with a pie, and that's it. These cameos are fucking bullshit. These cameos are terrible. They could have done, what was it, like what Smart Wrestling fans said, the obvious one that's like, you know, that you have to do is they all get on the elevator, and Ron Simmons is on the elevator, and he just looks at them, and they all stand there silently, and he just says, "Damn, that's what you got to do," right? But I guess he wasn't available, so.
Yeah. There was at least one good cameo, I thought, and it was on your side of the things.
Okay.
But we're not at that one yet, I don't think. Because after the Otis one, did someone come in or was there like no action? It was just Otis pieing him.
Yeah, and then he just walked away.
Okay. Well, then we caught up with Asuka running through another break room, and there was a janitor with some really nice looking chops. Like, he had the gnarliest sideburns that I've ever seen. Like, I think I had right. Like, I think I had those sideburns back in high school. I definitely know my buddy did. But so he's mopping, and Asuka takes his mop and just nonchalantly hands it to Shayna as if that's going to stop her. And then she scurries off. And so you had like Shayna, Nia, and Carmella chasing after her. And then Dana lagging behind. She comes running through, slips on the wet floor, and knocks her noggin. And I'm assuming she died after that because we never saw her again. But the women all chase Asuka through a staircase, which was Stairwell Blue.
The blue stairwell. All right, so this is the cameo that was probably the best one. You're right. So AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan fight into Vince's office. We know it's Vince's office because he's in there. And also you get the dinosaur thing, and it's the same office where they did the like he's gonna puke. It's that same office, you know. So you recognize it from that. And so they're in there and they're fighting and moving the chairs around and stuff. And Vince sees them and they just stop and they both look like they got their, hand caught in the cookie jar, and he kicks them out. And they are about to leave, and then AJ's like, we should fix and so they go around, they fix all the chairs and stuff before they leave. So then they leave. Vince uses hand sanitizer and then goes back to whatever he was doing. Daniel Bryan and AJ talk outside of the room about how they both wimped out. He's like, AJ's like, Daniel Bryan, you really wimped out here. He's like, well, you're the one who told me to like put all the chairs back. And he's like, you know what? I did do that. And they start fighting again. All right. And then Corbin, Black, AJ, and DB, they all brawl into a conference room. Corbin destroys everybody, and he heads to the roof. And this is when we get the wrap-up of the women's match here.
Yes. So the women make it to the roof first. And it's just Asuka, Nia, and Lacey Evans. And I was like, okay, cool. These three are starting, this final segment. So they get in there. They all kind of get their spot in. Nia hits this awful looking gorilla press on Lacey. And what made it so awful is that they obviously had a bunch of different cameras set up, and they showed it from almost every single angle of just her like casually just slipping and dropping her and not doing it properly. I'm like, oh, that's what we needed. 4 different angles of her doing a terrible gorilla press. So then she sets up the first ladder. Asuka makes it back in. It stops her, and then Lacey stops Asuka, and then we do the same song and dance for a couple times. Eventually, those three fight back and forth with no sign of the other women. Like Carmella, Dana's dead on that floor. She's got another concussion, I guess. She's out for a month.
Oh, no.
Carmella, who knows where she's at. And I don't even know who the last competitor was. Shayna. Where the hell is Shayna?
Yeah.
The one who made every single person tap out at an Elimination Chamber is nowhere to be found. And so they all kind of fight back and forth. Eventually, Asuka finds herself up there by herself. But Baron Corbin finally makes his way to the top, and he scurries up the ladder, and he keeps telling Asuka, no, don't take that briefcase. And I'm super confused as to why he's trying to stop her. And so Asuka then kicks him in the head and sends him tumbling down. She climbs up and captures the women's Money in the Bank briefcase, and Asuka is our current Miss Money in the Bank. 2020.
Yeah, that's great. She'll be good with it. We'll talk about her thoughts on this at the end. We're almost wrapping this up. So Corbin was, as you said, the first guy up to the roof. And then Otis makes it up next. He can't climb the ladder, though, because he's too fat, you see. Because the rung of the ladder will break if he steps on them. So Corbin and Otis wrestle, and Otis does the worm. and Aleister Black takes out Otis of the Black Mass. He and Ray fight over a ladder and climb up the same one. AJ Styles pushes the ladder over, and Baron Corbin throws Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black off of the roof. And they are never heard from again. And there is a thud sound each time. He throws them over, and you hear the thud. So they're dead.
Yeah.
But, being dead in WWE doesn't mean anything. So unless you're...
AJ was dead like 3 weeks ago, so he's back.
Right, yeah. So Daniel Bryan finally appears, and the four that aren't dead fight for control. AJ comes out on top, and AJ and Corbin both have the briefcase. They're both at the top of the ladder. They're fighting over the briefcase. But Elias appears out of nowhere, hits Corbin with a guitar. The briefcase falls through the air into the arms of Otis, much like Mandy Rose did not that long ago. Otis wins and is now Mr. Money in the Bank. And John, I ask you, was the risk worth the reward?
That's what the saying was. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this. I mean, I kind of thought, hey, they're going to swerve. They're going to give us Otis. But I didn't think they were actually going to go through with it. I don't know where this goes from here because we already have the love triangle. I guess the only place I can see this going is Dolph challenging Otis for it, maybe. And then maybe there's a double cross where Mandy turns on Otis and gets back with Dolph, and he's the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, because they've done that before.
Yeah, I'm really happy that Otis won it because, he's going to get a title match. And, you worry when you see a wrestler getting humiliated constantly on television that's all that's going to happen. Because we've seen that many times in the past where someone just gets humiliated and nothing comes of it. They don't ever get the payoff that comes with that. And, hey, I did your bullshit for 6 months. Can I get some respect? So I'm really happy that Otis has this because this just means, he's going to have storylines. And not that I'm going to watch it, but a lot of people really like him and he'll be on TV a lot now. So that's good.
But where's Tucker now in all of this, like his tag team partner?
He is gone, my friend. And in 3 weeks, we will see the next round of people, let go, and he will be on that list. So,
sorry,
it's a good
Tucker.
wrestler.
What do you think about Asuka winning?
I like it. I mean, it's an easy choice to make. I mean, to me, her having it's a good idea. I don't. If she's going to challenge Bayley, is that who she would challenge? Is that right?
She's technically on Raw, so she would challenge Becky.
Okay.
But I think the briefcase, you can use it for any main title.
That's right, because there's only one, right? So
yeah.
I think that's right. It's either that or you can only use it on whatever show you're on. So either way, who knows? We'll see what they do with it. Asuka's one of my favorite women's wrestlers of all time. So, whenever she gets more TV time, that makes me happy. And, I can't wait to see her finally do cool shit on the main roster. She's capable of so much more than they let her do. And I would love to see her given 15, 20 minutes on a pay-per-view with Becky Lynch to see what they can do,
My concern, though, is that they've already had Asuka lose to every single one of the current women's title holders. She's lost to Charlotte multiple times. She's lost to Becky now multiple times. I'm pretty sure she's lost to Bayley. So it's why are we putting the briefcase on her when she couldn't beat them any other time?
Well, because now she's the heel, you see.
She can be sneaky. But, she's already lost to Becky twice this year.
Yeah, I know.
Why? I don't know. I thought it would. I don't know. If I was booking this, I would have put it on Shayna and just had Shayna sneakily just choke the shit out of Becky tomorrow night and win the Raw title. And
imagine Shayna with that briefcase just taunting people with it. You know what I mean? She could show up on both shows. And just after the, maybe she's got some heel buddies that are, some heels that she likes that she's friends with. They beat the fuck out of the the baby face, and then she just walks out with the briefcase every once in a while. That's all you got to do. And all of a sudden, she's on, she's at the edges of, ready to attack anytime, and you never know when it could be. I don't know. I like that kind of thing. It's weird having a face with the in Otis, but with Asuka, at least it makes sense, that she's a heel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because traditionally there's not too many faces that win Money in the Bank. Just like there's not too many faces that win King of the Ring. It's just it's a good heel storyline.
Yeah, I mean, these accolades that have been made up are there for a bad guy to get so that they can be an asshole and have an accolade to brag about. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, King Corbin, he's been King Corbin now for a fucking year. It's just this thing he's going to brag about forever. So whether he's eating dog food or not, John. So, well, John, any final thoughts on Money in the Bank?
I think I enjoyed it for the most part. I think WWE, especially right now during the pandemic, they're like, we can just put 4 matches on the show and we'll just call it a pay-per-view. We'll see if the people care. But I keep hearing rumors that they're going to sell pay-per-view rights, and if you're doing that, you can't give us these kind of shows and charge me $50 to watch them, because I'm not going to.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm very interested to find out how much the AEW pay-per-view coming up is, because we might cover it because we got nothing else to do. So
I think it's probably going to be $50. I feel like it's been
$50 the past. If it is, we won't be covering it. If it's not $50 though, we'll see. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
And if it is, maybe we'll just we'll sit 7 feet apart and watch it at the same place.
Well, we'll see what happens.
And go have these.
I thought the show was fine. It was exciting to talk about something, and I don't know. It was great to do an episode with you, John. It's been a while, so I'm always happy to do that. Where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me at jhat05 on both Instagram and Twitter.
Well, you can find me at Jerusalem Tweets on Twitter and on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find our show at the Road Home FW. John, we have fanny packs now. So
I saw that. I'm going to have to order one.
Check out the website, the Teespring website, which is in the show notes, and you can get your own Road Home from Wrestling fanny pack that has been the manufacturers have promised me that you can hold at least 1,000 somas in there. That is a lot of somas, okay?
Is somas a drug?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big drug taker unless it's Tylenol.
Well, I mean, I don't want to explain the joke, John, because then it's not funny. But the point is that, back in the day, the wrestlers would all take somas. So I always, whenever I talk about fanny packs, I always ask how many somas they have in there, or does that hold somas, or how many somas can that hold? So.
Okay. How many somas can you take in one night?
Well, we could talk about that off the air. So how about that?
Oh, okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening.
Sayonara.